Elon Musk, the world's second richest man and CEO of SpaceX and Tesla, has moved to Austin, Texas. This move will have enormous consequences for Silicon Valley, Texas, and the entire American technology sector. Let's move beyond the headlines and explore the economics of Elon Musk's move to Texas. Let's begin with the story. Why is Elon Musk moving to Texas? The series of events that, as far as we can tell, led to Elon's move began earlier this year in May at the Tesla manufacturing plant in Fremont, California. Located in the Bay Area, Fremont was subject to some of the longest and strictest lockdowns in the country, and health officials ordered Tesla's plant to close indefinitely. Musk claimed that Tesla had worked with local officials on a plan for safely reopening the plant, something afforded to other California businesses, but was denied permission to resume assembling cars at the plant. In a fiery series of tweets, Musk threatened to move Tesla to Texas or Nevada and perhaps close down the Fremont manufacturing plant altogether if he wasn't allowed to reopen immediately. The county still said no. In defiance to health officials, he ordered the plant to reopen and resumed manufacturing, telling authorities in a tweet to arrest only him and spare his workers. Local officials backed down, and Tesla was allowed to continue manufacturing, but for Elon, this was the final straw. Fast forward a few months, and he just announced last week that he has moved his permanent residence to Texas. While Tesla and SpaceX are still technically headquartered in California, this will likely change in the coming year. Aside from California's health restrictions and the standoff with officials, there are other reasons for Elon's move. The new Gigafactory, which will assemble the Model Y and upcoming Cybertruck, is currently being built just outside Austin, Texas, and SpaceX has a large research and launch facility in southern Texas. As Elon said, the two projects he is currently focused on are both in Texas, so moving there makes sense for him. Additionally, as the world's second richest man, moving from the state with the highest income tax to a state with literally zero income tax is likely worth tens of millions of dollars to him. However, there are much deeper consequences that will result from his move. First, Elon's move is a sign that Silicon Valley has reached its peak. Silicon Valley and the Bay Area has been the hub of technological innovation and big tech companies for decades. The combination of the universities Stanford and UC Berkeley and the venture capital of Sand Hill Road made the Bay the place to come and try a crazy idea. Even with the absurd cost of living and the highest taxes in the country, tech stayed in the Bay because all of the talent and all of the funding was in the Bay. To make it in tech as a startup, you had to live in the Bay. This is no longer the case. While this dispersion of startups has slowly begun, 2020 accelerated this trend by a decade. Being forced to work remotely, tech companies realized that their entire workforce didn't have to all be in the same building to be productive. Remote became a viable option, and immediately a flood of tech workers fled the Bay Area for lower cost of living. Even after taking pay cuts and cost of living adjustments, workers' standards of living rose dramatically from moving outside the Bay. It's now commonplace to work in the most desirable industry in the country from, well, anywhere in the country. A stark departure from just 12 months ago. Many of these employees are happier for it too. No one enjoys having to pay $1.2 million for a starter house. This is forcing companies to examine having large offices in the Bay when they could have the same productivity and talent located somewhere which is several times more affordable. Between Oracle and HP relocating their headquarters, Apple and Google dramatically expanding offices in Texas, and an ever larger share of venture funding going to startups located outside the Bay, expect the dispersion of tech to begin and more large companies to follow Elon's lead. Second, expect Texas to become a leading hub for technology. The upcoming dispersion of tech companies will happen around the country and benefit many cities and states, but Texas appears to be a standout. Cities such as Denver, Raleigh, and Miami have the right mix of young talent, affordability, and natural beauty, but Austin and Dallas in particular seem to top the list of places that employers are looking at. They are both very affordable, have warm winters, house great universities nearby, and have a pool of talented workers. These attributes, combined with Texas's extremely business-friendly environment and lack of a state income tax, put Texas and its great cities at the forefront of people's minds when they think about the next great technology hub. While the future won't likely see another Silicon Valley level concentration, as tech will be dispersed more widely, Texas will be a rising star and is a likely home to many future technology giants. Third, we will start seeing billion-dollar companies founded and funded in places like Austin, Raleigh, Las Vegas, and Miami. The 2020s are set to be the decade of the medium-sized city. The pandemic has forced society to re-examine big city life. Some of the most moved out of cities of 2020 are New York, San Francisco, Chicago, and Los Angeles. The insane cost of living and overcrowding of these large cities are exactly what people want to avoid during a global pandemic. People are flocking to smaller and medium-sized cities, and some are also falling in love with rural areas again. The places to be for many of the most talented workers and entrepreneurs is going to be in and around smaller and medium-sized cities, and consequently, so will the next wave of companies that change the world. If you want to make a career in technology, don't look at California. Look at the nearest city with a population between 500,000 and 1 million. I myself worked in the tech industry before being laid off this year and have left the Bay Area for a medium-sized city to take the next step in my career. While these trends have been slowly starting for years, I think we will look back on this year, and especially at Elon's announcement, as the pivotal moment that tech decides to leave Silicon Valley and spread out across the country. In the next video, I will go over a very similar situation happening to another industry that's concentrated in a single declining city. Why Wall Street is moving to Miami.